One, two. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the KIRIO House podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am very, very excited for today's guest. We've got Shawn Taylor from Inspect1 Home Services here. Shawn does every single one of my home inspections because he does a great job taking care of all of my clients and really does a thorough job going through and inspecting the home from top to bottom, start to finish, and is just not one of those guys that ever slacks off one bit. So, we created the podcast here to take some of these interesting conversations that we have throughout the day in the real estate world, and we wanted to bring them to you and make these conversations and this information available to you. So, Shawn, man, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, are you local Guthrieite?
I grew up in Edmond, but towards my teenage years, I started meeting some people from Guthrie, so I kind of hung out in between, and so I always had a lot of Guthrie friends plus Edmond friends, and my wife's from Guthrie, so over the last several years, we've kind of migrated into Guthrie. So I would say I'm a Guthrieite now.
Guthrieite, I think that's right.
We still live a little further south than Guthrie, but we're in the process of kind of getting up here full time.
Nice.
So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And you've got a couple kids that go to school here in Guthrie, right?
Yeah, we've got 3 that go to school in Guthrie,
Nice.
and one that is in a Mother's Day out pre-K here in Guthrie. So
Okay. Awesome.
And we've got two juniors and a 8th grader. So
Oh my God, you got your hands full.
yeah, we're a big blended family. So we've got 6 all together. I've got 2 older ones, and my wife has 3, and then we have 1 together.
Wow.
So it keeps us busy.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
How do you have time for home inspections?
Luckily you can kind of plan your day.
Yeah.
So it works out. My wife's a real estate agent as well, so she can kind of work her schedule around the kids as well. So it works out for us.
Cool. How long has she been selling real estate?
4 years.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious. We interact a lot, but we don't always have the time to like sit down and chat and kind of get the small talk stuff. And so I'm interested to get to know you a little bit more and find out kind of what was the thing that propelled you to get started in home inspections and how did you get into the greater real estate umbrella, so to speak.
Pretty soon after high school, I got into residential construction. So I started out as a frame carpenter and moved into a trim carpenter and cabinet builder. So I built cabinets and did trim for around 18 years.
Nice.
In the residential construction area, all around Edmond, Guthrie. And so as I am getting a little older, I wanted something that wasn't quite so tolling on my body.
Yeah.
Wasn't so much labor. And so inspecting kind of was a natural transition to go into.
Yeah.
So
Was it something you ever thought about before? Or?
I had, so we've had the business for 3 years now, but almost 10 years prior, I had started getting interested in it and looked into it a little bit. It was back when in 07, 08, everything kind of crashed a little bit. Work was a little slow, so I started looking into other opportunities, and then work got busy again, and I just kind of kept on working and doing what I'd always done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and also back then I was a single dad, and so didn't have a lot of time to do all that. So
yeah, no kidding.
Been remarried for 10 years now, and that opens up a lot more.
Yeah.
You're not so stuck to, I've got to have something. I can't take that chance right now, because I got people dependent on me.
Yes.
So,
and it's really hard when you're thinking about starting a business or when you're thinking about scaling your business.
right.
And you start thinking about taking these, financial risks or, going out on a limb on something that's going to take a lot more of your time. It's hard to justify that when you've got, people that are dependent on you to keep this income coming in.
Absolutely.
My wife and I, when she's on a job, and she works in movies, She decorates sets for feature film. And so when she's doing that, it's the kind of job where it absorbs you, 110%. And it's 12, 14 hours of your day every single day. We always, we worked together for a long time, and it was the kind of thing where you get home, you kind of decompress, eat some dinner, go to sleep, get up and do it all over again.
Right.
There's not time for anything else. And so now that I'm in real estate, she's still doing the movies, but there might be times where I'm really busy and I don't have time to do anything around the house. And then there's times where she's on a job and she doesn't have time, but I might be around the house more. So we kind of help each other, pick up the slack and take care of things around the house and everything. And helps a lot being able to leverage that person.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same way in our household,
Yeah.
I'll be gone a lot during the week, and Amanda works out of the house a lot, So, but on the weekends when she's running a lot more, than I am, then I can kind of pick up the slack and run the kids here or there, whatever we need to do.
It's a partnership.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, man, I got to tell you, like, I one of the things I really like about your home inspections, because obviously who does the home inspection is always up to the buyer. I can't use you for every single transaction, but I recommend you for every single one.
Right.
And the reason is I really like the way that you take the time, you go through the house top to bottom, you really, dig it apart. I always say it's like ripping the makeup off or wiping the makeup off, and you get to see what's really there. And then you spend time at the end of the home inspection, kind of going through a summary with the buyer so that they understand what all these pieces are. And you've got an incredible report. And not every home inspector has such an easy to read report and all of the systems in place that you do. And I'm just curious, like, when you were getting into this, did you like sit and design all this stuff and make your app and everything? Or like, how did you get started branding your business and getting off the ground? And because, I mean, from the outsider looking in, like, you've got a really cool business model here.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. I've never really looked at it that way.
Really?
So I feel like I'm just kind of stumbling along and just give it your best shot, and see what happens. But
well, it's working, man.
Yeah, they make it really easy for you. They have a lot of different softwares out there, home inspector softwares.
Okay.
And so I did, the research and I went with, one of the most modern ones. Of course it cost a little bit more, and you've always got, some of the other inspectors saying, "No, you don't need that, do this, you don't need that." But I feel it really makes a difference, and I've been told that more than once. So, picking the proper software, I think, can really help your business. It makes it easy, So, but ever since then, I'm always working on building my template.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like it one way, and then the next day I'm like, no, I don't like that at all, and I'm changing stuff up just a little bit and I think that goes back to me being a cabinet builder, where it's all in those little details.
Oh, always.
To me, Yeah. So it's all about the details, and it'll drive me nuts if I feel like just one little something's just off.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's cool. How long did it take you once you decided, like, hey, this is what I'm doing? How long did it take you to like get up and running? Did you kind of toy with it for a while, or did you just dive into it?
I kind of just dove in, but I did. I got the software, and I would go to my mom's house, to my house, to a friend's house, and run, mock-up inspections on it just to kind of get used to it. But really, I've been so fortunate to have friends in the industry, and once I got that license, I really wasn't afforded a lot of time to practice. I kind of got thrown in because it just kind of took off like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it to be.
So you had the business kind of out of the gate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
It only took me about 6 months to go full time.
Wow.
So for the first 6 months, and I started in October. So I started, when it was kind of on the tail end of the busy season, getting into the slow season. But by May, I didn't look back, and that's all I've done since.
That's awesome. So by the time you were in it and starting to get a foothold, and really, like, you got your feelers out there, you're figuring the whole thing out.
Right.
Boom, comes around May, and now it's getting into the busy time, and from there it just took off.
Yeah, it took off, and a lot of it at the first we're good friends. So I'm like, well, I don't have to worry too much. So I don't think they'll fire me right out the gate, So, but it worked out. I've been around houses my whole life. My dad was a heat and air man, and so I always was around him, working. We had rentals, so that's how I made money as a kid. I was doing make readies and cleaning up homes and fixing drywall and stuff like that. So I've always kind of had my foot in that kind of work for a long time. So I know my way around a house. So it was real natural and easy transition.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I had some similar upbringing. We were always just doing things, and I was sort of the one that like you're saying, that's kind of what you did for a living when you were a kid. You got to fix things and take care of stuff and run errands for your parents and everything. It's very much the same for me. And I like it though, because I look back on this stuff a lot and I think like, man, I'm really actually glad that this happened, or that my parents didn't take it easy on me, because like while a lot of kids were playing and having fun and whatever, like I had stuff to do, and it kind of molded my mind and my work ethic. And so now, I mean, I don't like using the term workaholic. I believe in like life business integration, not work-life balance or separation. So I try and integrate, my personal life and, my wife and my marriage with the business, and just, she understands that it's who I am and it's what I'm doing. And, so we kind of integrate those things. Anyway, I digress, but, yeah, man, that's super cool. So, let's see. I'm kind of curious to know, like, from the moment you show up to the house for a home inspection, what are some things that you're right off the bat kind of looking for? And actually, we might preface this for someone that doesn't know, like when we're doing a home inspection, the way it usually works is the real estate agent that's on the buyer's side or representing the buyer will recommend that they do a home inspection. And I'll always recommend, I kind of just recommend you just because you've done well by me, and I like what you do. And they may or may not have a home inspector they've used before. More often than not, they kind of just want to go with our recommendation because they have sort of come to trust our opinion. And so we'll set up the home inspection, and you're pretty quick about it. I can usually hit you up, and within 3 days, 4 days, you're out at the house. So you're super quick. But when you get there, what are some of the first things that you're looking for?
Really, I mean, I find myself sometimes even not even out of the truck yet, and I'm already seeing little things, little details out of place that's like, pay attention to that, And I like to stand back and get a wide look at everything before I move in.
Okay.
So, and I think that goes back to my construction experience with the framing and stuff. I know what goes into it. So when I can stand back and say, well, this shouldn't look like that there. Yeah. There's a dip here, or, you've got a weird transition on a roof or something that could be possible leak area, So those are areas you want to take extra time and really dig into.
Yeah.
You're looking at garage surroundings and stuff. Is there anything out of place there? Any bows in that header going across there? That may tell you that there's something going on inside.
Okay.
And I like to look at the water meter when I roll up.
We had one of those. One of those pop up.
And before I go in, and normally I'll kind of look outside, and before I even go in and start any water, I like to check out the water meter, because if there's any movement in there, then there could be possibly some unseen leaks, or it could be as simple as a toilet running.
Sure.
Or they left the dishwasher running. But then I've got that in my mind when I'm going in and starting everything to kind of be aware of.
Well, and we had that one here in Guthrie on South First Street,
right,
where you had called that out before we even got started. You had asked me if there's any water running in the house because the meter's running, and then you checked again after we were finished. Confirmed all the water was off, and you could still see the meter running a little bit. And so we're getting that squared away. The seller's taking care of that repair, but we would have had no idea if you wouldn't have called it out.
Yeah, until they got that first water bill after they move in, and they're like, "What is going on here?"
Yeah, right. Where's this going?
Yeah. So that's good to hear though, that we can catch little things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So, like when you're going through the house and like from your perspective as a home inspector, what are some of the things that are the most important for you to keep an eye out when you're going through a house? And what are the things that you want to make sure that you catch for the person that hired you?
My structural issues and safety issues, I think are my biggest thing. You want to make sure you're structurally sound and that you're safe in your home. Now there's going to be a lot of other stuff that we come across and a lot of general maintenance items. But the big ticket items is really what I'm wanting to really pay attention to.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of it's going to be general maintenance. And you like you said, I'm very detailed. I and thorough with my inspection. Not that everything's wrong or bad, but hey, we can give you a recommendation on how to make that improvement. To where it's best practice versus just okay quality.
Yeah.
And not everything's a major defect. It's just, hey, you might need some caulking around the windows. It's going to save you energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stuff like that.
One of the things I always hear you say is like, you'll want to get this sealed up. You want to
Right.
get this sealed up, and you don't always realize how many openings there are on a house
Right.
until you start looking through these reports and talking with a home inspector, and then you kind of like your eyes are open and you're like, geez, there's like 1,000,001 ways for water to get inside your
There
house.
is, and it doesn't take much.
No.
And wasp and stuff too, and I feel like sometimes when I'm saying this stuff, I'm just saying it over and over, and
because you
and
are.
people are like, oh, that's just a little hole there, and I'm like, but you don't know what can get in there, wasp nest or whatever. And that's just because I've seen it from personal experiences.
Yeah.
Because at some point I was probably like, oh, it's just a little hole, but
No
until
big
you
deal.
get over there and start working on it, and some wasps start flying out. I've actually been stung on the top of a ladder in the face,
No.
sealing up a hole in a house. So that's why I'm like, hey, this could be a problem.
I picture you, up on the top of that ladder doing a Griswold.
Oh man, I came down that ladder pretty quick.
Did you?
Oh yeah, face swelled up for about a day. It was horrible.
Oh,
My wife laughed at me. It
Was it just
horrible.
one sting or
It was a few.
was it?
Yeah, it was a few.
Dude, that's no good.
It was no good.
Man.
So, and it was from a vent cover that had come off.
Really?
A bathroom vent on the side of a house.
Oh, really?
And I went up there to put a new one on.
Yeah.
And started pulling the flange out to put the new one on, and here they all came. Woof, that was a day.
Dude, it's for some reason you just reminded me of that house that we did on North Coltrane, North Guthrie, and there were those weird holes on the side of the house.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't even really think twice about it. I mean, I kind of wondered like, what the hell is that? But I never really dug into it. And to find out that it was actually for bird control,
Right.
because of the material of the house, woodpeckers would, come sit on the side of the house and basically destroy your siding. And so they caught these woodpecker traps, or they made these woodpecker traps. That was the first I had ever even heard of that.
I had never seen. I was blown away when
Really?
they're like, it's for the birds. I'm like, whoa, yeah, you're right. And they had little perches up there, and
Yeah.
I guess they were had something in there for them, but at the same time in the attic, I'm like, well, you've got a baseball sized hole in the side of your home still.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good point. Like, do you think there's any precautions in there to like, I don't know, seal things up? Because what if you've got rain coming in from the
Right,
side or something?
Yeah, and that's going to cause a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Moisture causes a lot of damage. Now, something like that, and the amount of rain we get, it may take an extended period of time, for it to be opened or to cause any real damage. But I want to say we had some staining on the ceiling in those areas too, I think.
Oh, was there?
Area.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. It seemed like it. So
Could be right.
but so it could lead to more serious things like mold issues and stuff like that could really be hazardous. So
Man, speaking of mold, I'm like running through all of our home inspections through my mind. Remember that one in on Tecumseh? This was out in like Shawnee or something. But there was that one that had it was the gray house, had the vinyl siding, and the roof was kind of had all these dips in it. I remember you had said that you were worried about the siding because there were some openings at the top,
Mm-hmm.
and then we ended up finding mold there behind some of the siding.
Right.
And then I had ended up, I was like, searching for things on YouTube, and I found one of these videos where there's a siding guy or somebody, and he's talking about this vinyl siding. Vinyl siding looked like it was in perfect condition, and he pulls the panel out, and there's just mold behind the panel. And I was like, okay, that's what Shawn's always talking about.
Right.
Right.
And you don't know how long that has been there.
Yeah.
And
none of this stuff is that it's none of it is things that a buyer would see by walking up and looking at a house.
Right. And some people don't even think to think about that.
Yeah. I mean, like as someone that goes in a lot of houses, your first thought is like, and I think everyone's different, but you think about the floor plan. How is the layout? Is it functional? You look for, damage in the walls, floors, cracks, things like that. But you don't always think about the stuff that you can't see.
Right.
And that I think is probably the majority of the stuff you want to look out for.
Yeah. And you're just looking for little telltale signs, I was in one the other day and I don't know what caught my eye, but it was a little piece of baseboard and it just looked a little puffed up. I thought, man, that looks weird, right next to a door. So it went into a door, and I went down there and felt it, and it just felt mushy.
Ooh.
I'm like, man, put the meter on it, and sure enough, it was moisture there on the edge of that door. And it was, so again, I know that, I think, working with wood for so many years, that caught my eye that, that was out of place.
Yeah.
On that baseboard. And that's what keyed me to kind of poke around on it and stuff,
Yeah.
So,
do you run into a lot of stuff like that that you think your previous work history like gives you the ability to pick up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's probably a good background to have
Yeah.
for someone that's a home inspector, coming from the construction and framing world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I would, even when I was still a carpenter, I'd say, we'd work for various builders and stuff. And I'd always say the best builders used to be carpenters, because as a trim carpenter, you deal with a lot of the aspects of the house, because where you're putting cabinets, you got electrical, you got plumbing, you got to know what to leave for the different trades, and to make it all turn out right. So you're involved in a lot of the process, doing, custom cabinetry and stuff.
Yeah. That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought, I mean, it makes sense though, but
Yeah.
you kind of, when you look at like the flow of new construction, you kind of, it's this tradesperson, then it's this tradesperson. And then,
Right.
almost like they just go kind of in a line.
And, a lot of it is like that. I was fortunate enough to get in with a good group to where we did, all we did was custom stuff. So, when we'd get in there, we didn't just have plans of these cabinets are going here, these are cabinets going here. We were designing as we go. So we would spend minimum 6 months in a home, but we built everything by hand there. It was 100% custom. And,
so these aren't track homes.
No.
Okay.
Sometimes you'd get half of it built and they didn't like it. No, just, they just couldn't see it for some reason. And now that they're starting to see it, they're like, oh, we want to do this different. You'd rip it back down and rebuild it.
Wow.
That wasn't not uncommon,
Okay.
but we still got paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's wild to be, a consumer and you're building a new construction home and you get, half your kitchen done and you're like, wasn't what I wanted, rip it out.
Yeah.
That's not a cheap, know.
I've been on jobs as long as 18 months, in big homes.
For a single build.
Yeah, single build.
That's incredible.
Yep.
So did you do mostly like luxury homes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. How did you get into that?
Well, just like I say, the group, the old timers that I got in with, that's just kind of the niche they were already in, and so I started there, you know, and just got lucky.
Man, that's awesome.
And lucky to learn from some of those old timers that can do the cool stuff. They're not just throwing stuff together.
Yeah.
You know.
Man, I look at I'm I'm a nut for crown molding or molding in general.
Yeah.
But when I see like these stacks of crown molding in
Mm-hmm.
some of these nice houses,
Oh yeah.
it just makes me go googly eyed. I
Oh
love it.
yeah. I've done some 14, 20 piece crowns,
Really?
and 20, 30 feet
Well, but
ceilings.
those aren't easy. How big?
A ceiling or an entryway that's 20 foot in the air.
Oh my God. That's wild.
Yeah.
And those cuts are kind of complex. I redid the crown molding in our old house, and trying to get your outside and inside corners right when you're doing like even 2 or 3 stacks,
Right.
like that is wildly
Yeah,
difficult.
and there's different techniques besides just mitering. And on that miter, you got to cut it upside down and backwards.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've constantly got to be seeing it in your head.
Yeah.
But we used a technique called coping a lot when we did our corners.
Okay.
So basically, what you're doing is you're putting that back cut on there, but then you're carving out the profile so it fits over the other one. So you're not getting a joint like this. The other one's fitting over and just kind of molding together.
Oh.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's
Pretty
fancy as hell.
Yeah.
Dang.
You can get a good tight joint that way.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I always, not always, but there were a few corners where I finished up and I'd have, even if it was just like an eighth of an inch gap,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got to kind of fill it in with some caulking
Right,
and,
yeah.
try and get it to look right. But
Yeah, and of course on the, if it was always, there's a difference. If it's painting, you can get away with more of that. But the wood that's staining, you're not going to get any filler
yeah,
in those corners. So you
No
got to
way.
make it nice.
that's cool, man. Cool.
But, and if you didn't do it the first time, you start over until you get it right.
That's wild.
So, and we were always more about quality versus quantity. I think I've kind of taken that over into my inspection business as well, because I'm not killing it with 100 agents, but the ones I have are solid,
Yeah.
and so I feel very fortunate for that as well,
Well, and that's kind of a good place to be in when you can, at least I think, when you can get enough business that you're staying busy, you're paying all your bills, you're stacking some money away, whatever, but you're not, going so hard that, it's like you got your hair on fire and,
Right.
you can't keep track of things and,
Mm-hmm.
missing appointments or whatever. That's where, like, to your point, you start sacrificing quality
Right.
for quantity.
Right. And ever since I started my mission, really, I guess you could say is to, I'd always say I don't want a ton of agents to be running everywhere. I want a handful of really good agents that I can take really good care of, so when you call, I can get there in a timely manner, and it's worked out. It blows my mind sometimes, that I'm just an old carpenter,
Yeah.
Here I'm out running around, staying busy and
Yeah.
doing something that, just looking at houses, something I've always done,
Yeah.
so it comes fairly easy.
It comes natural to you.
It comes natural. Yeah.
Dude, I think that's so cool. I think that's one of the most awesome things. And it sounds like you almost have this. Have you ever heard of imposter syndrome?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I get the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be doing something or like I'll be making a video or whatever. And I'm like, I can't believe like I'm doing this. This is weird. It's
Yeah.
like I never saw myself here. But at the same time, I feel perfectly comfortable like being here and doing it. It's just weird. It doesn't feel like it's my
Right.
life.
Exactly. Yeah. Because right now, just doing this, it's like I'm just an old carpenter. How am I doing all this? So
Well, you're more than a carpenter. I mean, you can tell like when we talk. I mean, your knowledge base is so vast. Like we've had conversations, even just conversations in passing, where like I'll get little chunks of gold that you've thrown out, almost just like passing. And I'm like, I had no idea. It's good stuff
I
though.
appreciate that.
Yeah. So, what do you see? Do you see yourself sticking with home inspection long term? Is it a business you enjoy enough to commit to it? For
Yeah, it's always a fine line. You know what I mean? It's like, man, I'm getting busier and busier. Do I want to take somebody on? But then I'm like, man, I did that so long. I ran crews. I've had employees. I really just want to manage my schedule and have time for my family. Because
Sure.
at the end of the day, that's I have all I need there.
Yeah.
And the good Lord provides for us. We don't want for anything, So, uh, I want to work just enough to stay comfortable and spend the rest of the time with my family,
That's
you
cool.
know. Uh, but staying with home inspections, yeah, I'm always looking forward though,
Hmm.
So home inspections are good, but at the end of the day, I like building too, you know.
Oh,
So uh, or redoing homes, So I'd like to dabble in a little bit of that. Do I ever just leave home inspection? I don't know. It's uh, I like helping people. It's
sure.
cool to be there for somebody that's making one of the biggest purchases of their life.
Yeah.
And you feel a certain responsibility to make sure that they're getting what they pay for. That they're going to be safe
Yeah.
in this home. So that's a cool thing too.
Well, and you kind of, or at least I see this when you're, let's say, giving a summary to someone,
Hmm.
and now I'm thinking of a few different people, but man, there's times where as the agent, I'm kind of standing there and I'm listening to you and watching the tablet and seeing all the things that you're pointing out for the buyer. But I'll also look at them and I see that they're just in this moment, like hanging on every word you say because they just don't know.
Right.
They don't know what these things are and or what they mean or what they do. And so they're listening to you and they're like, I had no idea what,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
It can be a scary time, and especially if you're a first time home buyer or something like that, and you really don't know the ins and outs of owning a home,
Yeah.
and so my goal is to find you know every little thing, but maybe the safety items, structural items, and I don't worry about writing too much stuff up because it's not about what's on that page. It's about how you communicate it.
Mhm.
Communication is key, and all that stuff really doesn't scare me because I've fixed it 100 times. Everything's fixable, you know. But so yeah, I think it's just all about how you communicate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
How you frame it and present it to them.
right,
Yeah.
right, because it doesn't have to be scary.
No.
Everything can be fixed. Let's go back to the drawing board, see how we can work this stuff out. You know.
Well, and that's really important because I have seen home inspectors before that even with small or smallish
Hmm.
items, they will kind of put the fear of God in you. You
Right,
know, they'll make you think like, hey, you might reconsider purchasing this home because, this window seal's broken.
right,
And
right.
and you're like, hey, guy, chill out.
Yeah, right.
Like we can replace the window or we can
Yeah,
get that fixed.
absolutely.
You know?
And I think a lot of people think all this stuff. Oh my gosh, a lot of stuff's pretty reasonable. It
Hmm.
doesn't break the bank to fix some things.
Yeah.
So uh, we have very unstable soil. So in Oklahoma, we got that clay. And we experience these highs in temperature. It gets really hot, gets really cold in here. You know, which creates that unstable soil. So we have a lot of structural foundation issues on homes. And but I think when people hear that, they're like, "Oh my gosh!" But in all actuality, piers aren't all that expensive.
Hmm.
You can get it done without just killing yourself. Uh,
Well, I
so
think with foundation specifically, there's that misnomer to your point
right,
where people think there's a foundation issue that's $20,000,
right,
and
right,
it could be a $2,500 pier
exactly,
or something like
right.
that.
Could only need a couple, and you're looking at $1,500, $2,000,
Yeah,
and you're good.
yeah,
But yeah, I think there is that misnomer that oh my gosh, the house is trash,
it's
and
falling
it's
into the
gonna
ground.
take $20,000 to fix.
Yeah.
So
So, how do you sort of dance the line between being honest with the client and showing and telling them things that they should potentially be concerned about without scaring them out of the purchase, for fear of, you're not gonna,
right,
this is gonna break or you're,
right.
how do you sort of dance that line?
I mean, you just have to communicate well. You say, you know, this could be a potential problem, and this is why. Everybody's going to have their different views on uh, how bad they feel it is.
Hmm.
So I think at the end of the day, really, you've got to be really honest, and you've got to say, if there is a major issue, you've got to let them know, hey, this could be a
This
major
is
concern.
serious.
You'll want to address this immediately. But these things here, caulking the windows or something like that, those could wait a little bit. You could kind of do these items as you go.
Yeah.
But this and this should be addressed. Any electrical safety hazards, stuff like that. You don't want to give the impression that, oh, this isn't a big deal, on items like that.
Yeah.
So at some point you've kind of got to be that guy, but like I said, you don't have to get overexcited about it, but you really need to let them know that what the hazard is and why.
Sure.
Yeah.
To your point, being honest and just communicating it.
Right. Because you always get out there and you'll see stuff and you're like, oh man, now I'm gonna have to have this conversation today.
What's the worst kind of conversation?
Oh, just really, to me, it's electrical stuff because that could be so unknown.
Yeah.
It could never have an issue, or it could have an issue tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. And then structural movement items like that, those don't get me real fired up. Because I'm like, it's a pretty simple fix, and most of the time the house isn't going to fall down on you.
Yeah.
Just needs a little shoring up here and there.
So with electrical, like we're in Guthrie and a lot of our market here are historical homes.
Right.
And so we've got homes like ours was built in 29. And I know we've got some outdated electrical. But how do you know when you're going through a home, how do you know if it's been updated or if it's still the old silk wires, or like, what are some signs that you look for?
That's a tough deal because you can't see in those walls, and but normally I'm starting with the panel. I'm going to evaluate that panel. I'm going to look and see if there's ground wires present and how many, to see if they've ran new wire to all those outlets. A lot of times I'll run new wire from the panel and go up in the attic and then junction into the wires coming down the wall. So you got the old wires coming down to the outlet,
but the new wiring to the box.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So, and that old wire might not have a ground present.
Okay.
So then you get people adding, everybody wants the 3-prong receptacles because they accommodate everything. But then when you're putting those on without a ground wire, that's a grounding style receptacle. And that's not okay, because that could give the false impression that your appliance or whatever is grounded when in actuality it's not.
Okay.
So
what's the, for someone that doesn't know, what's the safety hazard there?
Just there's a potential for shock.
Okay.
If you think your computer's plugged into a ground, or you've got your surge protector plugged in there, but there's no ground, then this potentially won't protect your computer, and stuff is potentially not protected.
Gotcha.
And then added with the shock risk and stuff like that.
It's just shock, not electrocution.
Correct. But there are other means to make that operational. You can install GFI receptacles on there. So even though there's not a ground present, in essence, if you grab it, you become the ground. But they say so that it will trip the power.
Okay.
So they say that's a acceptable means of putting a 3-prong receptacle on a 2 wire system.
Okay. So if you do have outdated electrical and you do want the 3-prong system, you could just install the GFI and
correct.
Okay. Not
right.
To worry
And
about
it's got to be labeled no ground protection installed.
Gotcha.
On that receptacle.
What and I know you're not an electrician by trade, but how hard is it for someone, like if we wanted to rewire this house, is that a pretty big project?
Yeah, it's a pretty big project.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because anything you have like on exterior walls, that's going to be harder to get to than just dropping new wire on your interior walls. Mm-hmm. So I'll see that a lot. You'll see a lot of them that have been updated, but then there's a lot of times there's a few on an exterior wall or something that's still ungrounded, just because they couldn't get, or difficult to get new wire there.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yep.
What are some other things that you that you see that actually give you a little pause and you're like, oof, that could be bad?
I don't know.
I know.
It's like day to day. You know?
You're like, I see it all, man.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll tell you one of the things. Roofing,
yeah.
man. I've seen a couple roofs with you where you see those like the dips
Right.
and little peaks and valleys and
Hmm.
sagging roof, and it looks like if you took a step up there, you might fall through.
Right. Yeah, and there's been, there's some that you definitely put one foot out and kind of test the water a little bit before you jump on out there, and with that there could be multiple issues there, So I like to explain to people that we're the family physician. You're sick, you've got aches and pains or something, and you go see your family physician,
Mm-hmm.
and then he says, "Well, yeah, this doesn't look right, this doesn't sound right. We're going to refer you to the specialist." Say if you're having knee problems or something, okay, we're going to refer you to the ortho. And there you're going to get further evaluation and get, down to what exactly is the problem. So, that's kind of our job. We're the family physician of the home.
That's a great analogy.
You see dips in roofs, it could be multiple issues there. But a home inspection isn't that invasive. It's a visual inspection. So you recommend to the specialist to come in and do that little more thorough inspection there.
I like that. You're the family physician.
Just call me doctor.
I might. That's cool, man. So, I was meaning to ask you earlier when you said that you were getting your business started, and you had tossed around the idea of partnering with more agents versus just keeping a few good ones, and it got me thinking. In your mind, from the perspective of a inspection company owner and operator, who exactly is your client? Because I know at the end of the day, it's the person buying the home.
Right.
But if you were marketing, would you market to the consumer, or would you be marketing to agents and brokerages?
A lot of times we market to the agent.
Yeah.
You want to get those referrals from
Sure.
from that agent. A lot of people market online. I do Google. I've got a Google page and stuff. So I get more than, it blows my mind the calls I do get off just people researching me.
Really?
So I send out emails after inspections, and say, hey, if you were happy with our service, please leave us a review. Here's a link. So we've got nothing but 5-star reviews, and that helps. I've been fortunate that I haven't had to do a lot of marketing, which is crazy. It's just kind of organically taken off.
Really?
Just stand up. Go out and be yourself and do a good job, and things will take care of themselves.
Yeah. Man, I love that. And everyone I keep talking to says that. And that's like my philosophy is you go out and you take care of these people, you do right by them.
Right.
And like my whole philosophy has been relationships over transactions.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like by putting an emphasis on the person that you're working with and taking care of their needs and making sure that, you're just taking care of the person, the money will all work out.
Right.
That will just happen on its own organically, right?
Right.
Just take care of the client.
Yeah, absolutely. And I try to do my best to really, I don't know, it's just in me. I always go over and above,
Yeah.
I had an agent that called me the other day at probably 4:00 in the afternoon, and she says, I'm over here checking TRR repairs, and it doesn't look like anything's done. I close tomorrow at 11. We want to try to get you in here to reinspect and just make sure all this stuff is done. How can you help me? And I've said, I'm on an inspection. I'll be done in about an hour, and I can head straight that way.
Wow.
Now, this isn't an agent that keeps me busy. She's a newer agent. That was the first job I've done for her. But I treat everybody as if they're my top agent.
Yeah.
Because like you, I love the relationship, because life's about relationships.
It is.
So let's go out here. Let's go check out these houses. Let's have fun. Let's engage in relationship, and everything else will fall into place.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really believe that's the case. And I've learned so much since I started in real estate. And one sort of reoccurring theme that I seem to keep coming back to is that for real estate, the sales part is done. It's gone because it used to be years ago that like a real estate broker or brokerage would hold a listing, right? And they had the listing, and if you wanted to look at the house, you had to go to them to go look at the house. So they held all the cards. Well, now we've sold all the data to Zillow and Trulia and Redfin, and realtors got it. And so now the consumer doesn't need you to look at or to look for the houses. They don't need you to look for the inventory. They can look on their own time. What they need is someone that can advise them on the purchase or on a sale and guide and take care of them through the transaction. And so because of that, I don't think there's any need to sell people anymore. I think there's just, and especially in a world where, dude, there's so much negativity. There's so many cons and scams and robocalls and stuff. People are done. Like if you come off as a salesy, slimy kind of anything, it's a major turnoff. And so if you can kind of reframe that and come at it from a perspective where you're adding value and you're there to serve, I think that's where you really start to build relationships and grow and scale your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. So, what else about home? Actually, I know what I was going to ask you. So we talked about possibly going into like building, doing some contracting, building. And I got to tell you, I would never want to lose you as a home inspector, but I think there is a fantastic opportunity in building right now. I was just reading some reports from NAR, National Association of Realtors, and I learned that over the last decade, in order to keep up with population growth in the U.S., we needed to build about 12 million new homes over the last 10 years.
Right.
Well, in that time, we only built about 6.8 million. So there's a pretty big deficit there. And now I think that is playing a huge part in the housing shortage that we have right now.
Right.
So there's this, scramble by real estate agents to find potential homes for their clients. And there's a lot of new construction that's listed on the MLS or on Zillow, but it's months from being completed. And I think there's just a shortage of builders, a shortage of tradespeople, a shortage of lumber. I mean, just everything. And, but anyway, all that to say that going into new construction and development, I think is a massive opportunity the next, 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. And that's not on my radar. I don't even feel that it's really, and you never know what opportunity is going to come up, so, but right now I don't feel like that's in the near future radar, but, like you said, 5, 10, 7, 8 years, possibly, but we've got other goals we're working on now and trying to complete our home we're in now so we can build another one.
Hey, there you go. Did you guys custom build yours?
Somewhat. It was an older house that I'd bought, and we added on right about 1,200 square foot. And so I've done every bit of the work and redone the whole house. So everything's up to date and new and modern and
nice.
And but not our primary location where we want to be.
Okay.
So
where's your ideal spot? I'm just curious.
I like it out by the golf courses.
Oh yeah,
we spend a lot of time out there. We play a lot of golf, and I like it out in that area. But primarily, I'd like to have a little land.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we talk about the same thing. I think we're going to end up being in this house for about 10 years, and during that time, it'd be nice to be able to save up and kind of shop around. Or if we find the right land, before then, we'd be open to buying it. But I think everyone wants a little land right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just always been like that or if it's been exacerbated by the pandemic, but I feel like people want to spread out. They don't want to be in a neighborhood anymore, and they're looking for space.
Yeah. And we live on 2.5 acres now.
That's a good bit of land.
Yeah. But we've outgrown it. I'm like, we're too close. I don't want to see anybody.
I'll tell you what, though, you start getting up much more than that, you're going to spend a hell of a lot of time mowing.
I know.
Man.
Know. So we have to have some livestock or something to take care of some of that.
There you go. So. Last summer, I ended up having to hire someone to mow. because I like this. So we're on a quarter acre. It's a
Mhm.
corner lot. But we've got the backyard, the front yard, and then the side yard over there. And I just have, regular push mower.
Right.
And so, man, between mowing and weed eating, and like if I did any fertilizer or something, I mean, that was like a 4 or 5 hour,
Yeah,
deal.
it's not fun to keep up with all that.
No.
And then if you have any trees,
Yes.
I've got a good amount of trees, and it's like a never-ending story to pick up those dang sticks before those tree limbs before you mow.
No kidding.
That's the story of my life during the summer.
And we constantly chase sticks because our dogs, we've got two dogs, and something about just sticks, they love them. So we any limbs that fall, we cut them up, and we've got this pile. We stack them up neatly, and then whenever we're doing a fire, we'll pull that for kindling.
Right.
Well, the dogs, whenever they want to chew, they'll pull it for a chew toy.
Yeah.
But then they just constantly do that, and so I make fun of one of ours. She's our little pit bull. She's a brindle. Her name's Tempe, and I say she's like a little dragon because she's got her little hoard of sticks that she'll like go get a new one and then go back and like lay on her pile of sticks and chew the new one. And
Yeah.
anyway, man. So, what else about home inspections?
Man, they're pretty simple.
Pretty simple. I was going to pull up a report and kind of run through it, but what are some things that you look at during a home inspection? Like if I'm buying a house and I say, Shawn, what are you gonna check out here? Like what are the things you go through?
Well, first of all, we're going to start with explaining that we do a visual inspection of all the visually accessible components of the home. So basically, we're going to go in and run everything using the normal operating controls to make sure that they function as they should.
Okay.
I'm also going to run water throughout the inspection in every sink, just to really try to expose any kind of clogs, leaks that could be in those drain lines or water lines. That's another big thing: moisture intrusion or water leaks. That's going to cause the most damage in your home, and potential for mold and all kinds of other safety hazards. So I'm really big on the moisture intrusion structure and the major safety items, electrical and stuff like that.
So, and that's interesting. You turn on all the faucets, turn on the dishwasher, let it all run at once, and you kind of see what kind of a load it can take. And we did one recently here in Guthrie where we did that, and then came around and saw that our sinks were about to overflow.
Oh yeah. I've flooded a few.
Have you?
It's always pretty hectic when you do that.
Running around looking for towels.
You carry plenty of towels.
So, in a case like that, what do you tell the buyer?
Well, you tell them that they've got problems with their plumbing.
I think you guys have an issue here.
There may be a possible blockage somewhere in the drain line, and we'd recommend a little further evaluation from a plumber.
Okay. Yeah. So if you find an issue, because you're not licensed to fix this stuff,
right?
You're just licensed to identify it.
And that's kind of the beautiful thing about it is I don't have to fix anything.
Yeah, you just call it out.
Just call it out.
Actually, that's like the perfect job.
Right.
You just find problems with things.
Right. So some of my friends would say I was made for that.
Yeah.
So so that's the exact kind of stuff we're looking for, and that was an odd deal. Because those sinks wouldn't drain at all as long as the dishwasher was running.
Yeah, it's kind
of.
As
As soon as that dishwasher drained, those drains let loose, and they flowed the rest of the time.
Yeah,
it was puzzling.
I still don't know what's going on with that house.
Yeah,
it's different.
It is different.
We ended up bringing a plumber out to scope the lines, and heard that there were a bunch of tree roots growing into the sewer lines. And so we were a little worried, and consulted the plumber with the buyer, and it was going to be a big repair project. They were going to have to cut the slab to get to the sewer line, and they were talking about between $11,000 and $14,000. And then we got the video, and we're going through, and we like what I think were tree roots looked like these little hairs.
Yeah, that's what.
And just kind of coming out, but there's only like two of them kind of coming out of the wall, and you could still see the water flowing and everything. And we were like, man, I wonder like where are the tree roots?
Right. And you have to think, I'm no expert on, sewer scoping or anything like that, but you would have to think that if there was major blockage within tree roots, you're going to see some kind of buildup, toilet paper, stuff like
Clunks
that.
and stuff. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you think it would be pretty obvious.
So we're still trying to find out if it's not tree roots in the sewer line, what is causing the,
Right.
the backup. And
Right.
it's just one of those things. But that's also a unique house
It is.
because that was it was built in 82 or 83, I think, and
Right.
sits on 2.5 acres. But it's built like a little cabin.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like it should be in the mountains.
Right.
Kind of like that log cabin or long home kind of thing, and
Mm-hmm.
slanted walls.
That's the thing about, some of those houses that are out there is that you never know what you're going to run into, because it's not like they have, code inspectors coming by checking on them, when they're building outside of city limits,
That's true.
So, but, besides the plumbing, that place, I was surprised with the electrical. Everything was nice and clean. I was like, okay, somebody that knew what they were doing came in and did this. But then,
Yeah.
just little things here and there, you're like, okay, what do I even say about this?
One of my favorite things is when you come out to a house and you're like, so what do they want to know?
Yeah.
And I love that. And that's always like, that's on like a rehab home or,
Right.
something that's
is,
just distressed and looks like trash.
And sometimes it is like that because you're like, they're obviously going to go in and tear everything out. It's like, we could save each other a little time and money here if you just let me know what you want to know. And,
I'll check that.
Yeah.
Man, that could be a cool kind of side business that could fit in with the inspection stuff is
Right.
doing like renovations and flips.
Yeah. Yeah, it could.
Yeah.
I say all this and then I'm like, but where would I fit it in? Because I am really
Why don't I do it?
But maybe, the certain time of year it would work out, through the winter or something like that. You'd have more
that'd be
time
good.
to kind of focus on that, get it ready for spring and
Yeah.
get it on the market and then get geared up for home inspections, through the busy season. So that could work out.
And your busy season sort of coincides with the seasons of the housing industry, so it'll kind of taper off in November, December,
Right.
and then pop back up in April, May.
Yeah. And what's so cool about, my software, it's not just a template for the home inspections, go through, check the boxes or whatever. It keeps up with all your metrics of your business and stuff. So I can get on there and track what I've done from month to month, year to year,
Oh,
and kind of compare. And, it seems like stuff kind of kicks back up around March.
Okay.
And July kind of dips off, which is weird. Holidays dip off a little bit. And then this year, November was real slow for me. Slowest month I'd had in a while. And but it ramped back up in December.
Wasn't that
In
wild?
January, February, I'm like, all right, this is kind of crazy.
It is really weird. And everyone told me that, going into November, December, January is going to be really slow.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, I don't think we're going to see growth in the housing industry like we did in 20 and 21, but I think we'll still see a little bit in 22 with between rising interest rates and inventory levels still very low.
Right.
I think we'll have to see more listings come to the market before everything really booms. But what's kind of your forecast for because you're in the housing industry? I mean, what do you see happening in the next year, 18 months?
Man, all I can hope for is that it would just kind of stay steady.
Yeah.
I just like to be steady. I don't want to be too busy. I don't want to be too slow.
Yeah.
So you get too busy and then you're like, all I do is work. I'm tired. I want to have fun.
Man, I wish I had a personality like yours where I could think about that. Like I run on two levels.
Yeah.
I have I am not doing anything or I'm going 110%.
Right.
That's like all I've got.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I say that and then I always seem to find myself having so much on my plate. I'm like, no, I just want to stay right here. And then shoot, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Man,
I bet if you brought on one more person, maybe a younger guy that you could train up as kind of an apprentice.
Right.
And then, slowly start delegating more to them.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you'd have the opportunity to kind of step back a couple days a week and focus on something else or whatnot.
Yeah. And I've thought, I toss all of it around, but you know how it is finding people. That's my big worry. It's like it's
No
got to
kidding.
be the right fit.
Well, and
You
like what's
know.
going on right now finding help? No one
Oh
can
yeah.
find any help right
Right.
now.
Yeah. And you know, really, what I would probably do would probably be somebody I've known for years that possibly had worked around. I know how they work.
Yeah.
And they're looking to move a little forward as well.
Yeah.
So that would be ideal. But who knows? It may just be some random somebody that's
Random dude.
ready to get into it, and you like what they say.
Yeah.
So
Man,
we'll see where it takes me.
I saw a inspection duo once. It was kind of
Mm-hmm.
interesting. They picked one room of the house and like got little folding tables set up and
Mm-hmm.
set up a computer, and they had like these two-way radios. They
Yeah.
had like the boom mics and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the one guy would go and, he had his tool belt and his flashlight, and he'd get into stuff, and he would just call out on the radio everything he saw. And the other guys in the back, taking notes and filling out the report. And then, by the time they were done, they had the report ready. And I was like, well, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
But-
And I so when I bought my house 12 years ago or so, and I had a home inspection done, and that's the way they were.
Really?
And back then he just had a laptop, and he set it up on the counter, and one guy
Yeah.
went around doing everything, and by the time they were done, they printed out. But it wasn't anything like the reports you see now.
No.
It was just a couple page of this is what's wrong.
Yeah.
So it seems to have changed a lot
Yeah.
since then.
Well, one of the things I like that you do, like we were talking earlier about your report, is you literally have pictures of, I mean, if you've got loose electrical outlets, you take a picture of it. You've got the little arrow pointing, and,
Right.
if you've got a gap in the fascia or something,
Right.
you circle it and do your little drawing on it and everything. And that really helps a lot because you're not just reading some text that says, 2-inch gap on west side fascia,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, this spot right here
Yes.
needs to get fixed.
And I'm a very visual person.
Yes.
So, my comments can be short and sweet, but I take a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
And a lot, to try to really, so somebody can look at it and go, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Because if you just write it out, they're like, well, what's a fascia?
Yeah.
What are your soffits?
That's true.
Not everybody knows that stuff.
Do you spend much time in the summary, like going over, these are your fascia boards, or these are, whatever, or do you find that that's not really necessary?
If we have issues on, areas of the fascia, when we get to those, I usually try to explain what part of the house they are,
Okay.
and their purpose.
Yeah.
So,
Makes sense.
right.
Do you ever think about integrating pest inspection?
No, not really.
No?
I want to stick with my expertise. I have other pest inspectors that I work with and recommend, and even if the agent needs me to schedule them, I'll do that.
Okay.
So we can kind of handle all that, but I can focus on what I know and let them focus on what they know. So that way we can, do the best we can for our clients.
Yeah. There you go.
Mhm.
Cool, man. Well, before we wrap this up, what do you kind of see? Guthrie's booming right now. But,
Yes.
I think we've seen that over the last year or so, probably longer. But what do you see, happening here in Guthrie in the next couple of years?
A lot of good things are going on in
Yeah.
Guthrie right now. I love it up here, and we're highly involved. My wife's the secretary of the football booster club for the high school, so we're a lot involved in a lot in Guthrie, and there are just a lot of good things. We were at the state wrestling tournament last night, and Guthrie had 3 state champs. They placed second in the team standings.
No way.
And they won dual state this year. So in the football team, they went pretty far into the playoffs and had a great year. And so all that attracts families and stuff, and so I'm excited to see what happens around here, because I love the tight knit community and the way everybody is.
I love it too. Yeah, it's a good feeling, and one of the things I love, and I kind of nerd out about, is the history of it all.
Yeah,
I love the old houses, the old buildings, the stories.
right. Yeah.
One of the things I really want to do is that ghost tour.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I've never done that, but
We haven't done it either, but
No?
kids have.
Yeah. It sounds kind of cool. And my wife's got this book. It's like the Haunted Guthrie,
Yeah.
and it tells some of the ghost stories. And I kind of want to go check some of these
See,
places out.
I'm kind of I'm like, I don't want to play with stuff like that.
No?
I'm into it. Scares
I
me.
don't want to wake anything up.
Yeah, scares me.
There's have you heard the stories about the Bluebell?
I've heard a lot from time to time. You've got the old, the Dominion House used to be an old orphanage.
I didn't know
And
that.
So growing up, even I was from Edmond, which is just the neighboring town south of here. And we would come up and it was, abandoned, run down. And
Really?
you go running through it and stuff, and the cops would come and run you out. And, that was, and there's quite a
That
few
was
stories.
an abandoned orphanage.
Yeah, there's quite a few stories about that place as well.
Oh,
So I've heard a lot of them from time to time, but I don't remember stuff very well.
Well, especially stuff like that, because that's
Yeah.
this. My brain works the same way. I
Right.
hear it and I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then I'd never
Then it's
retain
gone,
any
right?
of it.
Yeah.
I used to hear stories about the Bluebell, and how it was a saloon and you had a brothel upstairs, and I guess some of the guys downstairs at the bar would get excited or something, and they'd fire a round or two off sitting at the bar,
Yeah.
and then they'd accidentally shoot someone that was upstairs, and so apparently there's been a lot of deaths there.
Yeah,
and,
I'll have to ask my wife because she would know.
yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be cool. You'll have to let me know.
I want to. She might. Yeah, I'll have to ask her. So,
Cool.
but,
Well, hey man, if anyone wants to get more information on home inspections and what you do, what the process looks like, how could they get in touch with you?
my Google page.
Yeah.
You can reach out that way. Inspect1.info.
Inspect1.info.
Yep, and that'll give you all the info you need to reach out. We have online scheduler there. So it's as easy as that. You can go to the website, hit schedule an appointment. The calendar, ask a few questions.
Wait, so you mean I could schedule these inspections and I never even have to call you?
Absolutely.
My God.
Right.
That's cool. Are you on
I don't
any-
tell a lot of people that because I like to talk to people.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you on any of the social medias?
Facebook, but I'm really not active on a ton on them.
Yeah.
I'm just
Fair enough.
like I don't want to be too busy.
You like your time.
I like my time, but no, it's all great. And I've thought about we're getting to the point in the business where I'm like, I've got it down.
Yeah.
So now it's time to level up.
Okay.
Because I felt like the first couple of years you're still getting your feet wet and really learning. That's when you're really learning.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so I feel that I've come across everything, multiple times now. You know how to handle situations and you're more comfortable with moving forward. At least that's how I am.
You've got that confidence.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For sure.
So, and you've got your timing down, your system down, to where, in the first I was just practicing on my friends, so, but now you feel like, I'm comfortable in my system, I'm confident in it. So that makes it easier to branch out.
For sure. Well, I'll be interested to see what you do next, or how you add to or integrate new businesses into Inspect1. I think there's a lot of opportunity, and you're such a smart guy. And, some of the conversations we have, I can tell that, you've got a very high potential. You can do a lot.
Right.
It's just a matter of keeping your, work-life balance and,
Right,
and
yeah.
keeping your time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Hey, I really appreciate you coming to chat with me and hang out and, have this conversation.
Yeah.
I got a lot out of it, and hope to have you back sometime.
Yeah. Anytime, man. I appreciate you having me.
For sure. Hey, thanks, bro. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. If you would like to get any information from Shawn, learn anything new about home inspections, check it out, hit him up. Or if you're purchasing a home and you're looking for a fantastic home inspector, Shawn Taylor is the man. All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy.